plus our distraction of the week. I'm Mel.
I'm Dave. This is the Library of Lost Time.
The Irish author Emma Donoghue is probably best known for her 2010 novel, Room. That story is told from the perspective of a 5-year slew of awards for her portrayal of the mom, including the BAFTA, the Golden Globe, and the Oscar. But when I think of Emma Donoghue, I remember reading her book, The Pull of the Stars. I recommended that in our Ireland episode. It's historical fiction set in Dublin at a special pregnancy. It's not.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, there are very sad things happening.
Yeah.
But the story focuses on amazing women. They're brave and funny and smart and flawed. And somehow it's historical fiction that reads like a thriller. I didn't expect a story about the flu, the Paris Express, and it's based on a real-life train disaster. In 1895, the Granville-Paris Express train derailed and crashed through Montparnasse station.
Right. I remember seeing a picture of that. There's like a famous image of a train just smashing through what looks like the second story of a train station.
Yeah, it looks like it fell out the window of the train station.
Except it's a train, so...
Yeah. So this book tells the story of that day through the voices of a handful of passengers from all over the world. There are members of parliament, a medical student, a secretary trying to convince her boss that moving pictures are the future. There are members of the train crew, and this is the best part, the train engine itself tells part of the story.
Oh, that's cool.
The other thing I find appealing is that the entire story takes place in just one day. The chapters are named for times and stops along the route, counting down to the crash. So the first chapter is 8:30 a.m., embark Granville. Then later, 11:10 a.m., unscheduled, halt Briouze. The penultimate chapter is called 4 o'clock p.m., arrive Paris Montparnasse. And the last is simply 4:01 p.m. because 4 o'clock is when the crash happened.
That all sounds very promising.
Yeah, just talking about that made me a little bit tense. I love it. On her website, Donoghue said, "This novel was written with great pleasure over the course of a year in Montparnasse, and I've put into it everything I love about the multicultural dazzle that is Paris. For a long time, I've been wanting to write a story about a disaster. Dozens of strangers brought together by the fluke of being at a certain spot at the wrong moment. I've tried to give the novel both the social range and the unstoppable momentum of a runaway train." That's The Paris Express by Emma Donoghue, and it's out now.
I also have a follow-up book from a beloved author who dabbles in magical realism.
Right on.
You might know author Karen Russell from her debut novel, 2011's Swamplandia. That is a coming-of-age novel set in a family-run alligator wrestling theme park that is falling on hard times.
Amazing.
That book wove together magical realism and family drama and the spooky beauty of the swampland, and it did well for itself. It was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize, and it had a spot on the New York Times 10 Best Books of the Year. Russell has a new book out. It once again blends the surreal and the human. It is also set in a location that you might not expect. It's called The Antidote. It's set in the 1930s in a ravaged Dust Bowl town in Nebraska. There are 5 central characters in the book. There's a prairie witch who can absorb and store people's unwanted memories. So if you have something you don't want to remember, you can just give it to her.
Nice.
One assumes certain costs might be involved. There's a photographer who has a camera that captures images of things that are not yet there or perhaps have already passed. And there's a scarecrow, an actual scarecrow who is somehow mysteriously awake and alive and carrying the memories of others inside him. The book has things to say about the times we live in now. One reviewer called it timely and urgent. If you like her other work, or if you enjoyed The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon, or Lincoln and the Bardo by George Saunders, I expect you will love this. It just came out last week. It's The Antidote by Karen Russell.
Breathe in. And now, our distraction of the week.
I have a theory about yoga.
What's your theory?
My theory is this. All the things you do in a yoga class, setting up your mat, the little story the teacher tells you at the beginning of class, the poses, the deliberate breathing, all of those things are designed to eventually get you to the final pose of Shavasana, the corpse pose.
Yeah, with a certain relief.
Exactly. You just lie on the floor, relax, and let the earth take the full weight of your body. I feel like the whole class is like a local train that's making stops along the way to distract you until you get to that final destination of just like, ah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I want to remind everyone,
Okay.
you can lie on the floor anytime you want.
You can take the express to supine.
Exactly. You don't need to commit to a yoga class to do it. The floor is just there all the time, waiting for you. You can just lie on the floor. And honestly, now is a great time to start lying on the floor.
You mean given all the things that are going on, or
Yeah.
you just mean like the grand now?
Let's say both.
Okay.
After I finish my yoga in the morning, my actual yoga,
Yeah.
shout out to Yoga with Adrienne, I leave my mat unrolled on the floor next to my desk as a reminder that I can stretch out anytime I want. I like to think of it as like the adult version of nap time at nursery school. Just a few minutes to have a little time out from the day. According to an article in the New York Times, I'm not alone with this. In their piece, Are You a Floor Person? They talked about how there are millions of views on TikTok of the hashtag floor time. One of the TikTokers said in their video, I am a floor person to the core. Meeting just ended? Floor. Home from the gym? Floor. Want to take a nap? Floor.
Huh.
Yeah. I relate to that so much.
Yeah.
And lying on the floor is nice all the time. But it's especially useful if you're feeling stressed or tired or distracted or overstimulated. When we feel anxious, our autonomic nervous system gets fired up. That's the part of the nervous system that handles unconscious stuff like your heart rate, your blood pressure, breathing, digestion. You probably notice all those things are really important and you don't want to stop them.
Right.
And everybody's probably heard of the fight or flight response, right? That's the layman's term for what happens when your autonomic nervous system is firing on all cylinders. To counteract that, you want to say, hey-o, to your parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
That's the one that relaxes your body after stress or exertion. To activate the parasympathetic, it helps to get grounded. And lying on the floor is a fast, easy, always available way to do that. When you lie on the floor, and this is going to sound really groovy, you can surrender to gravity in a way that you don't in a chair or even on the bed. On the floor, you can feel which parts of your body are in contact with the ground and where you might be clenching a muscle. If you sit at a desk for big chunks of your day, stretching out on the floor is like unfurling your spine. It's much easier to take deep breaths and relax every part of your body. And if you're starting to think like, no, you're throwing up mental blocks. You're like, I don't meditate. I don't do yoga. Let me tell you this. It does not have to be precious. You don't have to light a candle. You don't have to have a yoga mat. You don't have to think about meditation. You can just lay down on the floor. I've started doing stuff on the floor that I usually do sitting up.
Like what?
Talking on the phone, listening to an audiobook, filing my fingernails, just boring junk that you would usually do sitting up,
Yeah.
but can still be accomplished lying flat on the floor. Also, if you're lucky, sometimes a pet or a person will join you on the floor. There is nothing like that feeling of triumph that I get when our cat Smudge snuggles into my ribs when I'm lying on the floor.
Yeah.
It's like winning the lottery. If you would like to make lying on the floor a thing in your life, and I encourage you to give it a try, here are some tips.
Okay.
Tip number 1, if you have hard floors, say they're not carpeted, you might want to put down a yoga mat or a blanket. However, when I'm really wound up, I do the yoga mat only because paradoxically, the more stressed I am, the better the hard floor feels against my back.
Okay.
If I'm just like feeling like I want to have a little chill moment,
Yeah.
then I fold a blanket and put it on top of my yoga mat and it's kind of snuggly and cozy. But if I'm like, Oh, my inner 8-year-old's throwing a tantrum. Just floor, no blanket. Tip number 2. If you want to get a little fancy and throw a very easy yoga pose into the mix, you can add legs up the wall pose. For that, you kind of scoot your butt until it's touching the base of the wall and extend your legs straight up against the wall so your body's like a capital L. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can see what that looks like. It feels amazing. To me, it's like yoga dessert. It's like so sweet and yummy and chill. Tip number 3, lie in different spots. I usually have my yoga mat next to my desk, but one night I was throwing a mental tantrum about needing to make dinner, and I just plonked right down in front of the refrigerator. I just gave myself a timeout. It was so ridiculous. It instantly melted my agitation away. I just sprawled out flat for a few minutes, and then I got up and made dinner. There's a reason we give toddlers and dogs a timeout. And as adults, I think we forget that that option is available to us. Give yourself a timeout, lie on the floor. You'll love it. I promise. Visit strongsenseofplace.com/library for more on the books we talked about today and links to help you become a floor person.
Thanks for joining us in the Library Plus time. Remember to visit your local library